Okay, well, can you take me through the process of creating a piece of art?
You know, it's funny. Like when I first started, I thought whenever I first lost my eyesight, I didn't understand anything about blindness. I didn't know anything about blindness except for what I learned from TV shows and movies, and that's not a really great place to learn about blindness. So I was afraid that I would forget what color looked like, and I was afraid, I just had no idea what perception really was, and and it's funny because the way that I create art now is the same way that I start whenever I was sighted, because art, the perception of it, the image that you have, it always starts in your mind. So whenever I start a painting, I always think about what it is that I want to paint, and because I have to do it in a certain way, I always sort of paint the painting in my mind, thinking about the steps that I need to take. Because, I have to be careful because if I touch the wrong spot of the canvas, I'll smear the paint. I'll leave fingerprints everywhere. I'll do all this sort of stuff. So I need to think about how I'm going to approach a painting, but I always paint it in my mind first. And um, and that's something that's true. Even if it's so interesting. I think like perception for like a sighted person. You know, if you're sighted, you think you're seeing with your eyes, and you are in a way, but that image that you're seeing in your mind is actually in your mind. I mean, it's not your eyes, which is, I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but the eyes are just taking in light waves, and then as soon as it enters the lens and hits the back of your eye, it's turning into to an electrical chemical response that travels back to the brain, and then there's like 10 or 12 different areas in your brain that light up, and they start forming the image, but it's forming it in the same way that you would if you're dreaming or if you're imagining, which is the weirdest thing. So that's one of the things that I've had the hardest time with, is explaining to people who are sighted that a person who's blind can actually imagine. You can think of an image, but if you think about it, Sean, like when you're dreaming at night and your eyes are closed, and you're fully asleep and you have a dream,
Hmm.
it can seem extremely real. Like whatever it is that you're seeing in that dream, it feels like you're actually looking at it. And that's because that's the same part of your brain that's forming the image that it does when you're awake. Like your brain is like a computer, and it doesn't really care where it's getting the information from. That visual cortex, the occipital lobe back there. It could be getting information from your eyes, could be getting it from a memory, could be getting it from like parts that are making up your imagination. But it's putting that image together, and your brain, it doesn't really care. That image is an image. Um,
Uh-huh.
so in that strain, so whenever you're blind, that part of your brain is still there. You're just not using your eyes, and it's so funny because whenever you imagine something, you're using, I forget, it's something like 10 or 11 or 12 parts of your brain, but only one of them, like if you're using your eyesight, you just add one more area, so it's like you're using like 13 or something, but the other are exactly the same. So if you're imagining something, or if I'm imagining something, it's very, very similar. It's pretty much the same. So the way that I started painting now is really the same way that I did when I was sighted. I imagine it. The only difference is that I take in information in a different way. Like I can't use my eyes, so I take in information using my hands, like touch. Like if I'm painting someone, if it's someone that everybody knows, like I've done paintings of lots and lots of different musicians, of like Jeff Bridges, Tony Hawk, other actors, other people. But if it's somebody that somebody knows, the way that I'll understand what they look like is I'll feel their face, and and I'll spend a little time with them. That way I can really feel like all the wrinkles in their face, and all that, but then I can visualize it, and then I can go and then I can do the painting. So I'm sorry, I rambled on. I know you asked a simple question, and then I took it all over the place. I apologize.
No, no, don't worry, don't worry. That was all super interesting. It is like crazy to think about that. Actually, like really leads really well into like another question I have. So like you saying that you can like just imagine like the picture just like anybody else can when they're seeing things. That is really interesting, but it makes like it completely makes sense. But that does make me wonder, can you like draw something that you haven't seen before or like felt before?